Good morning, ladies and gents. Today, I'm going to keep working on some of this inventory stuff. I'm trying to knock out as much of it as I can all at once. Kind of get in there and figure out what the game needs, and then once we've got that down, kind of dive in and fix it all up such that I don't really need to mess with inventory for the most part for quite some time. Now, obviously, we're going to have to come back and touch on it every once in a while, and that's fine. But I'm trying to just get one of those major features because that's something that RPGs kind of revolve around, is handling inventory stuff. It's something that you got to get right, and it's something you want to make sure happens. Otherwise, if you don't have a good inventory system, it kind of impedes the entire process. So I want to make sure that that's fine. Also, as you can see, I'm mucking with this stupid grid again. Trying to figure out where I think it needs to go and all that stuff, just to kind of make sure that it's in a controllable state. And I'm also tempted to come up with a better setup for the grid itself, because one thing you may note right now is that as I'm poking at it, it's not actually terrible to work with, but there are ways I can make this easier on myself, and I just simply haven't done it yet. That's really what it boils down to, is there are better ways, and I just haven't done it. And also, you'll notice I've got some more content floating around. I'm working on the starting tavern area where you kind of first get the main quest. Hopefully it won't be too hard to draw players in. You'll also note there's a lot of lights in the scene, but they're very simple lights. So I'm not too worried about it, especially since in most cases I'm probably going to be able to bake the lighting into this, and that's not going to cause me too much pain in the end. So that these lights aren't really going to be real time for the most part, unless I really feel like making them pop in the scene. So yeah, we're just kind of getting to that point. I do have to make this door line up with this tavern, which is kind of silly. It looks like I'm off by not much, like a quarter of a unit maybe, but it's enough that you'll feel like you're walking into the frame of the door and not the door itself. So I'm just gonna shift, whoops. Really? I like how I have a tavern, but are the walls not a part of it? Okay, no, the whole tavern is there except for these wall pieces. These, for some reason, were not made part of this tavern, and they should be. So let's add them in. Oh, that's why. I had some floating bits and pieces and bobs and things. Let's also get these tables and pillars and things all shifted into it. I think that's everything. Think being the... oh, nope. Come on, tavern. We're gonna go that way a little. Okay, cool. Just gotta line it up. Oh, I went a little too far. So don't mind me as I shift it back a bit. One of those cases of having to get this all tidied up. I think it could go a little further. A little further still. Wow. Okay. This is why you also want to parent things together logically. If you don't do that, yeah, there we go. That looks like straight on and looks nice. Okie dokie. Also, I'm a little sad you can't look out this window. I'm actually tempted to stretch this side a teensy bit so that you can go up and look in the window specifically. Just a thought. I'm a fan of having interactive environments that kind of get a feel for what the player wants to do. And also, I seem to have an invisible wall. Whoop, no. Okay, so I do need to work on my my connection statuses here, because clearly I've been messing with these and they don't want to connect to the rest of the world. This grid is, once again, being a pain. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with an override switch and then just recalculate all of them at the same time so that I don't even have to bother with this garbage anymore. I just put them down and then tell it, go. Oh, dog, don't you start. Okay, so that one's attached. 36? No, 63 looks like it's the next one, hilariously enough. Yeah, all this work just to get movement going. It's kind of silly feeling, but it's what's got to be done. And you can see these were all missing information, so it's not like this is a bad thing for me to go back and recalculate these. I don't know why they're not all recalculating properly. A little frightening. It's like some of them aren't actually saving back into the scene file correctly. So if I hop away and then come back, I almost expect to see a bunch of these missing or not attached properly. And that's not good. Not a good sign at all. But yeah, the start content is at least coming along nicely. I've managed to get some lighting work in this weekend. I wasn't really able to stream that because that was a quick little just couple minute thing that I was doing between get-togethers with people. Okay, enough of the boring stuff. So, like I said, today I was thinking of inventory, trying to get more of that knocked out. There we go. Now I can walk all the way up to the door. And that feels actually a little tall for a door. I'm actually going to have the day wax on a little bit just to see what the lighting looks like. Most of the lighting here stays off during the day, and then at nighttime, my scene gets a little more complex. You can see that the lights in the town come on, the particle effects turn on. All that stuff proceeds to do a decent job. And I'm just going to use my scene view real quick just to see. Okay, yeah, I definitely can use some more light in here. I'll have to figure that out. Okay, so inventory. Inventory. So the two things I wanted to look into today, one was being able to pass things between characters. Seems like something that shouldn't be too terribly difficult. The other thing I wanted to do was start looking into the idea of weight and encumbrance. If you start dumping a bunch of heavy objects on one player, we want to make sure that if it gets too heavy for them, we start to penalize them somehow. It doesn't have to be some huge, crazy penalty, but having something of that style would be nice. And just because we're testing things, I always jump us back to this test scene. If only because this test scene has a lot more initial setup already done. So I don't even have to bother with that. Let's see here. So prefabs. So under the character window, when we bring this up and somebody has an item, I want to be able to click and drag it to their portrait. But the portraits aren't really made to accept anything currently. So that's one thing we can start with, is getting the portraits to actually accept items, and then once it accepts the item, we then have to stash it in that person's inventory. I also can't help but note that there's a sprite renderer attached to this one that should not be there. And I really hope that isn't on any of the others either. Since this poor warrior tends to be my, interesting. Since this poor warrior tends to be my, one stop for all my testing purposes, he does tend to get the short end of the stick when it comes to crazy things getting left behind and accidentally left in his structure. How it goes for the poor guy. So let's see. We need to make him be able to handle drag and drop. Specifically the drop part. That's really what we need to get hooked up. One sec. Dog's making noise. Want to make sure he doesn't blow your ears out. Alright, dog under control. So I think. We'll see. He might start making noise again. But yeah. Let's see. Right. So, hey, Kate. In SpyCod, IGN gives everything 10 out of 10, alright? It's not... It's just a bad sign, pretty much, if you get anything that isn't 10 out of 10. That's all. That's all they can really, really display at this point. They've given some pretty terrible games 10 out of 10 as well, so even that's kind of not incredibly meaningful. Let's see. So, they need to handle drop events, and since I've already got some information attached to this portrait, you can see I've already got a pointer down event. I should pretty much be able to just dump a, let's see here. Alright, I haven't opened any code today. That happens. Where is that player character class? It's probably on the party object here. So right now when you click on him, he opens the inventory, and that's pretty straightforward and easy to continue handling. When Unity freezes, no, there we go, okay. When we do a new event type of type drop, that's when we need to handle stuff. Let's see here. So when you drop something on the inventory, we need a few things. One, it looks like we're handing across this piece of information. I don't know if that's actually needed though. But we do need to add a new function into our class to handle this. Okay, so we have an open inventory call. So right underneath it, I'm just going to put a new, wow, caps lock. Let's see, we've got open inventory, we've got pass item. I guess receive item would be the better way to term that. And I don't think for now that I'm going to need to pass any information along. We'll see if that stays true. Especially if we crash Unity. Apparently that's just something it doesn't like. Alright, let's try this again. Come on, Unity. You guys get to see my awesome Ninja Turtles background. Alright, let's try this again. Once more with feeling, right? I go out to my test scene. I pull the camera back to a 2D view. And zoom out nice and far so I can see things. And now we're gonna break everything. Alright, ready? Oh, thank you. Forgot about those. Was wondering where they went. Let's see here. I buy Christmas gifts for people and then leave them in other people's cars. It's a terrible habit of mine. Especially, they survived. They did pretty well. Alright, so let's try this once more and hope that this doesn't break. I go out to the party UI, we open up the portrait. Let's just be extra safe. When I have the new event type of drop, we're also going to null this out first. Okay, that's now marked as none. Now this gets marked as none. There we go. Now it doesn't break. Oh, I see. Okay. Player character 1. We do need this in here so that we can say kill character. When you hand them an item, they die. Great game mechanic right there. Spica asking for my opinions on the Unreal Gaming Engine. It's good. I like it. Blueprint's great. C++ is better. Very powerful engine. Stuff like WebGL is a first-class citizen. I don't know. It's good. It's got a lot of stuff going for it. I'm not using it mostly because this is what I'm more familiar with. If I took the time to get more familiar with Unreal Engine, I have a feeling I'd like it a little bit better. But the time it would take for me to learn that engine and then work all of my code and assets and everything else into it, it's not something that I want to do right now. Sure, I guess I can reload things. So we do need to pass along a couple pieces of information for this one. We need to handle the following. First off, we need the item that's being passed to us, right? That's going to make the most sense. Luckily, I know this thing passes some event data across. I just need to look up what the actual... I think it's on drop. I need to figure out what the on-drop handler's parameters are. And there we go. That's what I need. I should be able to just do this, although I think I'm missing a using statement at the top. Yeah, I am. Using Unity Engine.events systems. There we go. Our event systems are complete, or at least the using statement is. Start, open inventory, receive item. Okay. Okay. Just curious, all the goodies inside of here. And how I can make use of all these goodies in order to handle stuff. Because I know I'm going to get on-drop events. The question is, when I get an on-drop event, what's going to tell me what kind of item is being passed around and what kind of information is flying inside of this this piece. Obviously, the on-drag event needs to get looked at, just so we know exactly what's going on in here. Oh my gosh. Inventory item UI. Here we go. So, on merge, on discard, on begin drag. Okay. End drag is really what we're most interested in, but you'll note that this piece, for the most part, seems to have a lot of control within itself. such that it sets its own parent, it does the local position setting, and then it also does the outline disabling. So there's a good bit of logic in here. That's not a terrible thing, but it is interesting to see that that's the case. And I'm guessing it's the inventory slot that actually does the, hey, you've been dropped on me, I need to handle this. Okay, here we go. This is the stuff I was looking for, specifically this top part, this pointer drag, which points to the game object that is being dragged around. That's what I'm hunting for. So, let's get rid of that. And I'm gonna just copy this line straight up. So first off, if you drag something that isn't an item onto the portrait, for now we're just going to ignore it. That's what this return statement effectively does. If you ever call getComponent on a game object and the game object doesn't actually contain that component, it just returns a null. And so all we have to do is check and say, hey, if this is a null, don't do anything, by the way. After that, this is where things get a little more interesting. We should do a couple more checks, specifically if you have space. So if this player character actually has an open spot in their backpack, that's where it should go. So we're going to start at this character's backpack slots. So we're going to look at the integer that is equipSlot.backpack. And while I is less than the inventory slots that a person currently owns, we could also do equipSlot.max if we wanted to. I like this a little better because inventory slots ensures that we stay within the array that is inventory slot items. So we then say inventory slots I. We need to make sure there's an empty slot, essentially. So if one of these is empty, great, we're done. That's all we care about. So we're going to go through, we're going to say, hey, there is an empty slot. And I'm just going to say that starts as false just because the compiler is going to complain if we don't set that default. Even though chances are we know this is always going to happen a certain way, compiler doesn't understand some of the assumptions we can make because we have a better understanding of the code than the compiler does, oddly enough. So that is is empty. If empty slot, break. If there is an empty slot, actually, if there isn't, and a better way I think to handle this, now that I think about it, is empty slot index. And we'll just say if this is empty, empty slot index is I, and then we break. And then we ask if the empty slot index is less than 0. That's when we know you still don't have an empty slot, and we should throw everything else out. Cool, so now we've checked the two things that are kind of our prerequisites for actually doing anything, right? We've said, does the item itself exist? And do we have a space to put it in our inventory? So, since those are clearly both the case, we now need to, let's see, what do we handle now? Probably actually transferring the item. So we need to remove the item from the current character window, remove the item from their inventory, and then add it to our inventory. Just hiding some of this UI stuff so I can take a peek at the character window again, which is conveniently hiding. Okay, so I click it, I drag it, I need to do a few things. Let's see here. On pointer enter, on begin drag, on end drag. So if the parent hasn't changed, we reset our position. Now it's a little iffy, because I am probably going to want to try to nuke the item itself. Actually, I could probably do, yeah, no, I can item UI dot game object, and we can just destroy this. Now that might break something here. So I open this, I grab this, and I'm gonna drop it on this person. I'm actually gonna clear my issues. Okay, so it still isn't quite... Oh, he's the only one with it turned on, isn't he? And even then, it still doesn't want to receive the drop event, it looks like. I'm just going to put a breakpoint in here. In the player character. See if it's even happening. And let's get rid of this character window, just to ensure that it's not mucking with anything. I'd rather not have setup causing errors. Okay, so it's not even getting called at all. Interesting. And just to double check what I attached to this poor guy, the portrait has a drop event. Oh, and it's missing the function. That'll do it. That'll do it every time. Although we seem to have lost the function. I'm not seeing receive item anymore. Interesting. I wonder if I'm not allowed to put this in and I have to nab it some other way. Interesting. Okay, let's... I'm kind of curious, like, why would it... Because this, okay, so here they're actually implementing the handler, and I can't actually do that. At least not as far as I'd like to. I'm just gonna grab this and do that for the moment. I know this code is probably good. We're just gonna put a debug log here to save ourselves some time and effort. Okay, so the receive item function is now back, somehow. So I open his inventory, I drag, I drop. Okay, so that works. The question becomes, how do we get to this information that we care about? We probably have to go into the event system. And I could swear that there was some way to get the current event that's being fired. Because I know event.current does a good job of that, right? If we look at this, it should actually have all the stuff inside of event, and it should allow us to figure out what we're hunting for. Problem is I don't see it. Type, no. Shift, no. Modifiers, keys, control, command name, command. Yeah, there's nothing inside here. That is incredibly bizarre. Okay, so when we use an event trigger, I guess I should put that in. Russian Sky, I'm hunting for the place in which I can grab the information for the current event being thrown. So right now I'm looking for the fact that I say debug.log, but what I'm actually hunting for is the item being dragged. Event.current seems like the right place, and I've been hunting there, but I couldn't find anything useful inside of it. So now I'm kind of expanding my search, seeing if there's any other spots that might be useful. Problem being that I'm really having some trouble finding exactly what I'm hunting for. The event trigger, it should have the information in here. Someone has to have the information inside of this. Because this on pointer down makes sense, right? We have the pointer event arguments, and those should be getting passed somewhere. Okay. What's funny is drag and drop clearly works for us for the other system, but won't work for this one. Event.type. So event type will give us a little more information. Let's see if we can abuse this to our needs a little bit. Alright, we drop it on him, and it's null. Huh? The event is null, even though it's in the middle of calling an on drop event. Okay. Pointer drag is a thing, too. That's the funny part. If you look at pointer drag, I almost want to point at the screen. Oh, you actually can't see it because it's hiding behind me. Let's see. Let's get me out of the way. Sorry. Whoop. Let's stick me here for a moment. So the text down here, you'll note that when I click on this, that the pointer drag is clearly set. So we're really looking for that part of the event that just has the pointer drag. I did not mean to totally just save this page as an HTML. Get rid of that. Let's close that. Unity pointer drag. Green rolls, thank you. The facial hair is a November thing for the most part, but we'll see if it sticks around. Seems to be working so far. Pointer, okay, event systems.pointer event data. Maybe we can find that somewhere in here. Keyboard event. So we can create keyboard events, we can check the number of events, and we can see the current event. But the current event does not have a type. It makes me wonder if this thing is null, which would be really weird if that was the case. Yeah, it is. It's null. So we don't even have access to that. I need to look at more documentation. This is kind of getting difficult. How to get that during a drag. Execute events. Okay. Store a pointer event data and use execute events to end the drag on the current object and start the drag on a new... I don't like that. It's an interesting thing that you can actually... I do want to look at that for a sec and just see, but... Interesting. So I can look at various handlers and drag and drop elements. Pointer down, pointer click, like all of these. Execute. Huh, okay, so we have helper functions for a lot of things. I just need to get to that data. That's the piece that I need. Event function. I'm gonna try something. This seems like it should work based on the template I just saw. Should being the, like, key of that. Yeah, I tend to say a lot of weird things. I don't say, can I borrow something? I say, can I steal something? I don't, yeah, I have a lot of, like, for lack of better words, waffleisms. I don't know. Hunting. Hunting is another one, yeah. Aha! Here we go. Receive item. Sweet. Okay. Now we have some event data that I think we can work with. Let's see here. Come on, tell me what goodies we got. Selected object and object used. Okay. I feel like I'm close, but I'm missing something. Game dev syndrome? Yeah, that too. That's another one. You know it's bad when you start calling things fetch quests. That's when you're over the line, and we need to have an intervention. That is the point of no return. That, or if you're a manager, never do this. They are called requests, not ask. Ask is a verb, not a noun. If you hear somebody use ask as a noun, slap them. That is not how you use that word. I've had too many managers say, oh, I have an ask. I'm sorry, what? You have poor grammar? Because I think we can do this. We can actually use English appropriately, I swear. Okay. What the heck? I have the event data, and now I don't know what to do with it. Okay, so base event data. What I think I can do is I can say pointer event data. I think I can do that, and then we're just going to uncomment all of this. That is how I think this will work. I'm not certain, so I'm going to put a breakpoint and just walk through it. But I think that'll work. You, hand yourself some potions. Okay, so here's the event data, of which there is a lot. Holy heck. There's a button, there's click count, there's all this other good stuff in here. Okay, pointer. There is a pointer drag. So this definitely has the information we need in it. And I think that worked. Yeah, it did. Okay, great. So now it's going to do its usual stuff. Is it an item? Yeah, there is an item. Do we have an inventory slot that's empty? Yeah, we do. It's inventory slot 10. I don't know why it... Oh. Huh. Okay. I need to mess with that in a moment. So there's our empty inventory slot, and then we destroy the game object. Great. It's gone. Item is gone forever. It's a good step forwards because it means we have something. Yes, have an ask. Strychnine has it right. It's a terrible thing that you hear managers, usually higher level managers, they won't tell you they have a request. Instead of like, I have a bug request or I have a feature request, it's I have an ask. And at which point I have to restrain myself from assaulting other employees at the company I work at. Because that's not how you use English. Ever. It's terrible. I don't know. Let's see here. So inventory slot. So we take the inventory slot that we know is our empty slot. And we're going to grab the item from the item UI. And we're going to fill in the information in our own inventory slot. So now we know that we've done that. The other thing we have to do is there should be a way to grab from the item UI some way to set the inventory of the person who owns. Okay, here, we have the owning character. Great. Do we have the slot of this thing as well? Because that feels like that's an important piece of information. How do we change the inventory ownership of this? Because there's got to be a way to do that. We have the owning character. The item reference itself isn't exactly an item slot. Remove item from inventory UI. Hello, you might be what I need. Okay, maybe not. Maybe it's close, but not what I want. So when I discard it, it looks like discarding doesn't actually remove it from your inventory, which is not a good sign. How do I ever remove or pass something between inventory slots? Oh, it's the slots that handle that information, not anything else. Yeah, it's not something you hear too often, but I hear it often enough that it's incredibly annoying when I do. It's just one of those things that it's like, it is one of my biggest pet peeves, is that abuse of the English language. What do you return when you put a return in an if statement? I've seen you doing it a lot. What do I return when when you do a return semicolon, let's see, when I do something like this, you're not actually returning any information. There are some languages that will, what happens is the language automatically returns the last variable or something weird like that. Because the function is type void, and I'm sorry, I've got something in my eye that's distracting. Because the function is type void, when we return, there's actually no information to return. So what we're doing is we're stopping the function early, and we're simply not passing back information. Slots are handling information? That sounds slow. Sloths, yes. Sloths were doing it, that would be slow. Lucky for me, it's just the inventory slot. So I have the owner. I feel like there should be a way for me to like tell the owner, by the way, you don't have this anymore. Oh, I know. The inventory item, not only does it have the current owner of the item, also if we look at the inventory item, we'll find that it has, I believe the parent, yeah, it has this previous parent. That's the object that it was attached to before we started this drag and drop event craziness. And what we can do from there is we can figure out what slot it attached to. And using that slot, we can then say, okay, well, clearly you belonged to this object, so, or to this item slot, so we're going to pull you out of that item slot. So, where is that? I need that receive item function again. So before we call destroy on the UI item, we need to do one more thing, and that is find that slot. So we have the previous parent, and we're just going to get the inventory slot UI out of it, and this will have a set inventory function. And what we can do here is call null. What's this integer argument? Oh, bollocks. Is there a better function for this? Did I write a better function for this? I think so. I hope so. If not, I can write one. That's the joy of being a programmer. If you do something terribly, you can fix it. There's its on drop event is invoking. Okay. Spike is asking, why don't I make it so that it spawns a new item in the players that you're giving it to and destroy the old one? So the big thing about that, excuse me, is that if I spawn a new item, if there are modifications to the existing item, those modifications will disappear. So say I take the time to put a +1 to hit enchantment on a weapon, and then I destroy that and just spawn a new sword in the person's hand. Unfortunately, that means that that enchantment will disappear. So we need to make sure that the same item makes it from end to end, and that we also remove the correct item from the other character. Otherwise, not so great things will happen. So there is a remove item function that I see. So I'm just going to call that. And I think that should take care of the rest of the hard work here. So we pass the item to the new owner. We say remove the item from the UI, and then we destroy the item UI so that you can't do silly things with it. That should do everything we need it to. Now, the funny thing is, if you pass something to yourself, we don't update the UI with that information. So if I click here, interesting. What happened? Let's see here. I passed an item to myself. That's one thing I should do. I should check against and ignore. So if the item UI is null, or the item UI dot owning character, and owning character is a player character, so we can just do a this check if I can type this, and that'll keep us from passing things to ourselves. There we go. Okay, now we can't pass things to ourselves. The problem is that means that now we have to set up someone else to receive our items. Add new event type. On drop, we need a receive item. And technically I should do this on everybody, but I'm only going to do it on one person at a time just to make sure I don't mess up something. Interesting. My on drop event should be going off. let's attach to Unity for a moment. Because this is not terribly happy. It's funny, it works for him. It works for the warrior, but the warrior's trying to hand it to himself, so that doesn't work. But when I try and hand it to the cleric... Oh, I said upper right. Sorry. When I do to the upper right, it does actually correctly remove the item. Computer. My Unity seems to be having a little bit of trouble at the moment. Clearly the fact that I click play and it like starts working seconds later is a sign that something's not going well inside of Unity. Come on. Not a good sign. I might need to restart Unity again. Okay. I hand the item to the rogue. Yeah, you're still attached. Hand it to the person. We just step through real quick. Yes, they have an empty inventory slot. So we're going to put the item into that inventory slot. If we look at the item at index 9, it is now a health potion, of which there are 4. We then remove the item from the previous character's inventory and destroy the UI object. Perfect. The logic in my head is working. And if we double check what is in the party's inventories, it should be pretty obvious. If we look at the backpack slots we just emptied out, his backpack looks pretty empty to me. Just double checking, but it does look empty. Yep, his entire backpack is empty. So, if I close down his and bring up our rogue, who is character number 2, and we look at his inventory, it should have dumped it in the first slot it could find, which it did. You can see the first inventory slot is actually full. So if I close this and open this, hey look! There it is. Okay, so it works. Sweet, we can drag and drop things to people. So let's get this set up on everyone else. And unfortunately, I'm pretty much out of time and my ride's going to be here any second. So I do need to get myself and my dog ready to go. So thank you guys for joining me very much today. We've got one small-ish feature kind of slammed out. I do think that it shouldn't be too hard to finish up the trading stuff either tomorrow or maybe we'll just do it another time. I have been doing a lot of inventory stuff lately, and I know it can be a bit of a drag to stay on the same topic for a long time like I have been. So we'll see if I can't maybe switch it up, do something a little more interesting tomorrow. Just looking at my list of things to do. Inventory weight. I know that needs to get done, but I could probably put that off for now. Condition icons and effects, search actions, currency types, all that stuff is cool stuff that I do need to get done. So that might be one way to do that, is start in on currency. New drop event that uses the receive item. Cool. Just to double check that I set this correctly for the other person. Yep. Okay, looks good. Thanks guys again for joining me. If you haven't done it yet, hit that follow button in the lower left-hand corner. Let you know when I come online, or you'll just see when I'm online if you don't want the email notifications. Should help you not miss a stream. Also, my Twitter account, I use that a lot for announcing the weird, odd streams that I don't do on my usual schedule. I haven't been doing a ton of those extra streams lately because life has been extra busy with moving servers to Amazon Web Services, but it's one of those things where we'll get to it. I will have extra crazy streams from time to time, and so when I do that, that would be the time to do it. Hello, Ice Master. Sorry you just hopped on if you did, but I gotta hop off. Thank you again, guys, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care.